In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic process.
Welcome. You're watching UAP Truth 33. I'm John. I'm your host. You're on Rumble, TikTok, Instagram. You're watching John C. Truth 33. Or Facebook. Please come to my Facebook, UAP Truth 33. Join. Man, we kick it. Comments, posts, whatever. Today I got a subject. It's and I'm almost scared to speak on it because YouTube, I don't want to get another badge, man. Like this Wikipedia disinformation badge. The last one was on the lizard people. And I feel like when I get those badges, it affects my viewership. And I don't want to do that, but at the same time, I feel like these things need to be spoken about. We need to talk about these subjects. And the strange thing is, Eric Davis is telling congressional leaders about these things, these beings. So I feel like the badges are unwarranted, and I feel like they throttle certain channels. I do post on Rumble also, and but over there it's more about freedom of speech and political stuff that I don't really choose to get into. Because I kind of understand how the world really works. And look, it's not any big secret. I'm not any special, guru. It's not like I've, man, my forehead's shiny today, huh? I got the chrome dome shining. But on a serious note, I don't, look, I'm 48 years old, and I'm sure some of you are older, I get a lot of viewers that are between 35 and 50. So a lot of you know that it really doesn't matter which party is controlling things. It's always the same old story. At least with foreign affairs and with a lot of domestic. And I'm not going to even put out any examples or name any names because I just feel like that's not what this is about. But at the same time, there is a consistency with secrecy, power, economic structure of this country. And, I feel like that's very evident if you just pay attention. And don't get caught up in the hot button issues that get people going back and forth at each other. We know what those are. I don't even have to state them here and turn this into something it's not, something that I never intended this to be. This podcast here, this content is about creating unity, understanding, and it's about empowering people with knowledge of the true reality that a lot of us, I believe, it appears, aren't ready to face, like the mainstream media. And I had spoken about Operation Mockingbird, which was an operation from decades and decades and decades ago, but it's still going on today. The media is definitely a puppet of something, of this entity that, and I believe it's global. I don't think it's just in this country. It's a global power structure for sure. And I think it even crosses the lines of countries who have bad feelings towards each other. Their intelligence agencies, although they are working against each other. I believe they also work together on a lot of things because it's always just about advantage and secrecy, and we saw you know the speeches that were given from Eisenhower about the military industrial complex and the danger of branding that gigantic blob of an entity too much power, which we did. We did it, and a lot of it was forced through um, terror, you know, at the turn of the millennium. I don't have to mention the exact uh, specific attack because, again, we're on YouTube. And when you say certain words, it triggers the algorithm. I don't want that to happen. This is a UAP podcast. This is about bringing people together to push disclosure. But that specific event or events was able to catalyze us into a permanent war footing. And it also took away a lot of our freedom through the Patriot Act. We also, you know, compromised our morals and integrity in a lot of ways, and we fooled the public, or they fooled the public. So the speech from Eisenhower, although it was well intended, it didn't affect the goal that I think he was reaching for when he made that speech. And then you had Kennedy make a speech about secrecy, how it was repugnant to American society. It's based on freedom and the Constitution. So here we go. Those two speeches, although they were made almost a half a century ago, ring true today like never before. And that's why I play the Kennedy speech, you know, in a lot of my intros to certain things that I upload, certain content. So here we are with the UAP subject. And some believe, like Stephen Greer, that we should be so much further ahead technologically as a society globally than we are. He says that the reason for that is because of economic fears. These powerful corporations are keeping a lid on this. If any of you have watched The Lost Century, that was a great movie, great documentary he made about um, alternative energy sources that could not only clean up the planet, but could also um, create like an equal playing field for everybody, rich, poor, middle class, third world countries, and suit, countries like us, countries like China, everybody would be on like a level playing field because there is a source out there of free energy that we obtain from reverse engineered craft. Some believe that Eisenhower even made a treaty with non-human intelligence. Um, there was a situation where he was rushed off and he disappeared. Nobody knew where he was for like I think 24 hours or something. And then he popped up and said he had a dental emergency. Now, a lot of people believe that at that time he was at one of these Air Force bases. I'm not going to name it because I'm probably naming the wrong one, but that some entities landed and apparently some maintenance, guys, they were in the military, but they were doing maintenance. And they saw this meeting go down. How much credibility do we lend to that? I mean, well, here's the thing. Like in the day after Roswell, it was a book written by Philip J. Corso. He was a colonel. He worked in the Pentagon, foreign technology desk, and the whole foreign, a lot of people thought it was like, foreign as in foreign countries technology desk. No, this was foreign as in, and foreign. You know what I mean? We're talking like super advanced non-human technology, fiber optics. They claim our internet. We got the internet now because of uh, these technologies, whether they were acquired from back engineered crashed UAPs or if they were acquired from some treaty where Eisenhower signed away or, gave them permission to abduct humans, to do cattle mutilation, and a lot of other things. That this non-human entity, this group, is not working in our best interest. They kind of got out of hand. They were doing way too many abductions. Now, there's different views on this from experts in the field. So you got Stephen Greer that says these abductions are my land, and I kind of wonder because there's people who've been abducted that have seen humans in military garb on these craft when they've been abducted. So it's kind of like, man, is that true? Um, and then you got people like Farsight. It's a remote viewing group run by Courtney Brown. And listen, this guy's a professor. He's like a mathematician. He's very intelligent. And he has this remote viewing group. And they claim that this is like a prison plan. And that there's two competing groups of extraterrestrials, one good, one bad. He claims that the bad group were the ones that made the treaty with the United States for this technology in exchange for abductions, cattle mutilations, and you know, the ability to fly around in our airspace unmolested. So, what, who do you believe? It's a very complicated subject, And then you got the Lou Elizondo that says they're all threats, you know. And it's funny because the other whistleblower, Matthew Brown, that came out in the interview with Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp, he said if you name certain people's names, it was like committing professional suicide. You were done. He said you were effed. So, what was the name? Yeah, David Grush. And then they asked, well, what about Lou Elizondo? Well, you were allowed to say Lou's name. That's strange. Especially he's pushing the threat, And so you got the military saying that the non-humans are the threat. They're doing reconnaissance over our military base to the point where we had to move F-22s out of Langley Air Force Base to another because these things were up there in the airspace and they didn't dare shoot them down. course, they called them UASs, which is unmanned aerial systems. But they don't know. They were UAPs. I believe that if they knew that they were drones, they would shut them down, or they would just drop them with their drone. They got these, like, if me or you go to fly a drone over, restricted airspace, even at airport, the drone's either going to return home to you or it's going to fall out of the sky. It's simple. But they try to act like, they got to come up with this new technology, these new drones they can fly for, 12 hours at a time. We don't know where they come from. We don't know where they go. Like, I find that very, very hard to believe with all the satellite intelligence that we have. Um, you know, Listen, the NRO, the National Reconnaissance Organization, like, dude, they can see anywhere I wouldn't be surprised if they could monitor me in my house right now, just based off my heat signature in my house through satellite image. I mean, Enemy of the State came out, what was that, 97? And that's when really people really started to pick up on this knowledge that we're under constant surveillance. So you think a military base, like, come on. So they're shutting down nuke sites, military bases at record numbers, even in other countries. They're in Australia, they're in UK, Lakenheath, and the other bases in the UK. I believe there was like 3 or 4 of them that UAPs shut them down. Like, these are some of the most highly secured areas in the world. And these things are just flying over them with impunity. And our military has no answer. Now, so Lula's on saying they're the threat, but are they really the threat? I mean, look, you look at, like, Operation, I believe, Starfish Prime or Bluegill Prime, one of the two. There's actual footage of them blowing a UAP out of the sky. And Harold Malmgren on Jesse Michaels' podcast said he handled the material. Not only that, he handled the material from Roswell, he said.
In his final interview, Harold Malmgren, former advisor to 4 U.S. presidents, described a sequence of classified events hidden from the public for over 60 years. He said the United States shot down a UFO during a nuclear test in 1962. The object was tracked, targeted, and recovered. Malmgren says he was shown the debris. He handled it. He said it was unlike any known material and that it responded in ways that were not understood. He also described private CIA briefings detailing earlier recoveries, including a 1933 crash in northern Italy and footage of a live non-human entity recovered from the Roswell site. According to Malmgren, President Kennedy was aware. He connected the JFK assassination to attempts to begin international cooperation on these discoveries. These statements were made on record by a man with full Q clearance who stood inside the core of the Cold War national security structure. You can now read the full article on Above the Norm News, based entirely on Malmgren's own words, and watch the full interview, hosted by Jesse Michaels, now available on YouTube.
Because then Eric Davis says, well, the crash really wasn't Roswell, it was another place, but there was just debris at Roswell, blah, blah, blah. I'm not even sure if that was his exact words, but it was something of that nature, but he comes out and he says there's 4 different species. And apparently the ones that look most like us refused to give us, this is the story now, refused to give us this advanced technology that we enjoy today, like Kevlar, integrated circuit chip, fiber optics, these things that we enjoy, like if you just do you realize how advanced just the microchip in your phone is? Like you can zoom in and just keep zooming in and keep zooming in, keep zooming in, keep zooming in, and there's just more and more of these like boxes and transistors, and it just gets more complex the deeper you go, the smaller. I mean, it's almost. I mean, we're at the point of like nanotechnology. We went from horse and buggy, right? Stone, horse and buggy, steam engines to where we are today. Um, it's amazing, and it's quite obvious that something happened. There was some kind of jump, and it just seems like it coincided with like 1947, right around that time. You that's when the CIA was established. Um, the MJ12 documents that was especially the burn document. It looked like somebody tried to burn it. Somebody else pulled it out of the fire. Those documents, they established that MJ12, right, it was Harry S. Truman tasked these gentlemen, Vannevar Bush, and James Forrestal, and all these different people, individuals that from different uh, fields of expertise that had, the top secret clearance. There was 12 of them, and they were the ones that were tasked with figuring this thing out, studying it, and that was established in 1947. Tim Taylor, he's famous from Chris Bledsoe's book UFO of God, where he was interacting with Chris Bledsoe and his family. And this guy, he has like ties with NASA, intelligence. He's like way up there. Like uh, Diana Pasulka, he also appeared in her book, um, American Cosmos. But she referred to him as Tyler D. So Tim Taylor, he spoke of like a hierarchy of beings, right, that make up this reality we're in, right? So God was one, right? They had angels. I don't know if he said demons, but then non-human intelligence, which is like some people refer to them as the others. Um, then below them is intelligence agencies, people in intelligence agencies below them, which is kind of strange to me. And I've also heard things that you can't even get the clearance like Tim Taylor has unless you're an experience. It makes me wonder, like, and there's things being said by other people, like Robert O'Dean, who had cosmic top secret clearance with NATO, and he was high up in the Army intelligence, and he stated that the document that he saw um, spoke about interdimensional beings and beings that look just like me and you. You could be sitting next to one in church movies, you wouldn't even know it. Now these are people that are high up in government. It's really just mind blowing if you accept all these things as true. Eric Davis, he's a physicist, got all kind of top secret clearance. He's talking about different species, four of them. I'm not going to name them here because I got a disinformation badge last time I did that. But it's just amazing, this subject. It's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. All these things that I'm telling you are things that I've covered in the past, that I've read, that I've watched, that I've, listen, I'm not making this stuff up. And Chris Bledsoe, at the Azalea Festival, 200 plus witnesses with him on the beach, and UFOs are doing all kind of you know demonstrations for these people and for Chris. NASA studied Chris, the Vatican studied Chris, CIA studied Chris. Very good friends with he's very good friends with Jim Semivan, Chris Bledsoe. Jim Semivan, CIA. Nuts, man. Really is. But the thing that really like threw me off, was Skinwalker Ranch aspect and um these skinwalkers, you know, that kind of like exist on the peripheral of our reality that don't really want to interact with us, and they kind of look like werewolves. I mean, I don't know if that's true. I don't know if I can dig into that one. You know, that one's a little bit too far fetched for me, even for me. And it really gets convoluted when you look at these people that are channeling extraterrestrials. And man, you start to wonder what's real. It becomes a hall of mirrors, man. And then you got these you got whistleblowers that I feel are legit. Matthew Brown, David Grushes, the Tim Gallaudet. I mean, if you want to call him a whistleblower, I don't these people that have been on the inside, that have seen the stuff. You know, the 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 movie The Age of Disclosure, Hal Puthoff and all that. And then you have these other fringe whistleblowers, right? And you know, where you get into the Jason Sands, where he was snuffing, blue aliens in the desert, doing all kind of, lobster people. Like, come on, come on, like seriously. You got like Corey Goods, and it seems like whenever a legit whistleblower comes out, they bring out this goofball, you know, and you got to be careful, man, that you don't fall into the just believing everything. But at the same time, you don't want to be so skeptical that you dismiss everything. You have to kind of find the middle way. Like that with a lot of things, a lot of. But I believe that we have to get to a point here where we can let go of this. Um, we have to get over this super militarization of our society, where we have to be on a constant war footing. We have to get over that. How are we supposed to interact with these higher beings if we can't even interact civilly with? I mean, it's just my thoughts. I don't know if you guys agree. It's cool. If not, that's cool too. But I'm just trying to state facts here. Um, it's my desire. And seriously, I hope I got two young girls, two daughters, and it's my hope that the world, by the time that they become my age, man, it's my hope that we're past this trash. This garbage. This primitive ape type behavior that we, you know, exhibit towards each other. Maybe I'm dreaming. And listen, I'm not like some kind of hippie kumbaya guy. I understand there's bad actors in the world that need to be taken care of, but at the same time, we can't use that fear. And they do that. They use fear to control the mass. They also use our prejudices and these button issues to remain in power. And it's to the point where there's free speech. It's getting to the point where you can't say certain things about certain groups, or you're done. You're done. You say the wrong thing about the wrong group, no matter what that group is doing, no matter how evil the leaders of that group are. Now you can't just blanket all of them and blame all of the group, because there's a lot of people in the group that don't agree with their own leaders. So it's a complicated issue, but you can't even speak out against the leaders of what they're doing, or else you're done. You're cooked. And I wouldn't be surprised if my channel hasn't been throttled for some things that I've said in the past. I have a problem. I say the wrong words, and YouTube. I notice other channels. They'll bleep out these certain words that really you're like, why are they bleeping that out? It's just a word. It's not even like a vulgar or disgusting word. It's a word. But if you say that word, well, what do I do? You know, I got to speak. There's liars, there's tricksters out there. We got to be careful. We got to watch. We got to pay attention. Sometimes you got people that are wolves in sheep's clothing. They appear like they're here for disclosure. They appear like they're working for us, but yet they're counterintelligence agents, rear counter. And then you begin to wonder, like, am I the op? Are we the op? It's just what do you guys think? You look at Bob Lazar, right? So Bob Lazar came out, and I'm not going to say he's either this or that, right? That's another hot button issue there. Like Bob Lazar, Element 115. Kind of funny that he talked about Element 115, and all of a sudden, decade, 15 years later, they found it, and they tried to erase him from the MIT, enrollment, saying he never went to MIT, right? They said he never worked at Los Alamos, but then we found a publication which was a Los Alamos, inter, like campus publication about his jet car, and that's how he actually got the job at Groom Lake, um, studying, UA, UFOs. And if it wasn't for that publication, and then a security guard that came out and said that he remembered Bob Lazar when he worked there, and all of a sudden it became clear that they actually tried to erase this guy, erase his credentials, and for what? Because he was informing us. So then you look at, like, the Kecksburg incident, right? Pennsylvania, crash there. And there was a radio broadcaster. He was going to do a show about the crash, and he was visited by the Men in Black. And his wife said that after that, he was never the same. He ended up doing a watered down version of the radio broadcast. He was really just down, depressed, upset about it, um, because they know what happened. And it got shipped off to Wright Pat Air Force Base. And there's a guy named UAP Gerb that did an episode on Kecksburg. I kind of piggyback on his episode. And those witnesses that saw this craft, the Acorn, at Wright Pat, somebody was trying to cut through it with plasma cutters and all kind of stuff, and they couldn't. It was like indestructible material. But that radio broadcaster ended up getting hit by a car like 3, 4 years later. You look at John Mack. He was a guy. He was like he would hypnotize people, and he was a psychologist from Harvard, professor, and he was very well known, very famous. Wrote books. He was actually a skeptic when he began his research, and he began to realize that these people are all telling the same story. People who don't know each other, their stories are lining up. So he said there had to be something to this, and he ended up getting hit by a car in 2015. He had Amy Eskridge, Doctor Amy Eskridge. Huntsville, Alabama, Rocket City, right? Went to University of Alabama at Huntsville, and man, she had so many different uh, degrees and doctorates, and all kind of things, from everything from microbiology to nanotechnology to chemistry. I mean, this girl, she was a genius. I did an episode on her. She ended up uh, coming up unalive. Claims she unalived herself on her front porch. Who does that? If you're going to unalive yourself, you're not going to do it on the front porch. Apparently, it was crazy. Ning Lee, another doctor, right? And her and Amy S. both working on anti-gravitic technology. They both ended up alive. This is a pattern, you know, similar to JFK. You ever notice, if you look into the JFK situation, all those people that were involved with that had some type of knowledge they weren't supposed to have. They were like, man, there was so many people that died under mysterious circumstances in relation to that event. It would blow your mind. And then you get into turn of the millennium, 2001, September, and the events that happened there, and the mysterious events that happened. You had these physicists that came out was saying, "No, this ain't right. This ain't how that goes. This isn't how it works. You know, you can't just free fall from 110 stories um, on the pancake theory." And to those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, just research. And you know, I'm not saying it was this or that. I'm not saying anything like like it was a inside thing or anything. I'm just saying, according to the fact, it didn't jive with the commission's findings in any of those circles. So what are we dealing with? I'm going to tell you what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a global blob of secrecy, and it's not just here in America. This is a global thing, and you got private corporations competing for certain technologies. Just listen to Jake Barber. The people that hired his crew to track down these hard drives and these crashed UAPs. They tried to backdoor them and get them taken out. This is a shadowy world that a lot of us aren't ready to even look at. That society's not ready to look at. Mainstream media is certainly trying to look at it. So what does it? What does this mean? What do we? How do we overcome this? I don't know if Congress is powerful. It's been said that these agencies look at these politicians as temporary employees. All they got to do is wait them out. Wait them out. Nothing changes. And is that what's going to happen with this UFO disclosure push? I don't think so. I think the pressure is too much, and I think NHI is going to make themselves known if the powers that be don't. You just look at November, December, the drone incursions, all that stuff, bases getting shut down. It's pretty clear there's an opposition going on to this global blob of secrets. It's food for thought, and I've ranted long. Those of you that know, you know. Those of you that don't know, go research these things that I've spoken about. You'll see. And thank you for watching. Wow, UAP Truth 33. John. Thank you for watching. Thank you for support. Let's see if we can't just trample over this embargo on information here. I feel like I'm getting throttled. See these other channels with half the content I have, they got a lot more subscribers. Let's see if we can put an end to it. Please hit the like, subscribe, share it to a friend. Feel free to comment. I love good debate. Think I've said something wrong? Hey man, we can have a good honest debate in the comment section. I'm up for that, Till tomorrow. Peace.